This is the commentary. Yeah, that's better. Am I on now? Am I on, yeah? And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for the Race at Home Championship 2021, presented to you by PETRONAS SYNTIUM and powered by SLT MOBITEL. We are here at the MOBITEL X station, which provides us with phenomenal data speeds, and I have to thank all our sponsors, Lab 57, House of Glass, and our digital media partner AAAR, who have made this championship happen. It's been long overdue. The spectators, the drivers, the fans, and everybody have been asking for this to take place, and we are now here at the Circuit de Catalunya, all the way in Barcelona on a bright Sunday morning at 10:30 local time, when we bring to you the CMSC Race at Home Championship. As you will see, Kevin Pereira in his pink color Porsche 911 RSR. It's a beautiful car, and Akhil Risni at the moment has set the fastest lap of 1 minute 44.694, which is a pretty decent time. That I presume would be one of the times to touch today, because it's a it's a great track, lots of history on this at this track, and we wait for the actual qualifying, which will take place at 1:30 Sri Lankan time. This circuit, if I were to give you a little bit of history, this is Formula One circuit. It's been running since 1992. The old circuit, 16 turns in total, and 4.6 kilometers, approximately 4.6 kilometers in total on this circuit. If I were to go down memory lane, I'm sure that most of you will remember that this circuit has has a history of running Formula One as well as motorcycles and MotoGP. We have some star-studded lineup of drivers, as you will see on track at the moment. You've got Ashan Silva, Kushan Pires, and Brian Pereira, all pretty much in the same frame. These three drivers fought tooth and nail in the 2020 championship, which also was conducted by CMSC and sponsored by SLT MOBITEL. As you see, Ashan leading the way in a beautiful Porsche, followed by Kushan, who has opted to drive a Porsche as well, from what I see. Majority of the grid who've opted to run Porsches, except for one or two who have also decided to run. Kurt running a Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle, and Kevin Pereira running a BMW Z4. As Kushan slipstreams Ashan, Akhil Rizni's time still stands at 1:44.694. Kushan braking hard into that lovely long right-hander, Ashan trailing him along I think Ashan may have driven this circuit in real life as well in a similar car, if not the Lamborghini. And as we go into that's turn 3, a long sweeping right-hander into another right-hander, tight apex. You can take 2-3 different lines there because that corner allows you to take 2 corners. Hard braking into a second gear left-hander, very tight. You have to be very gentle on the throttle. As you can see, Kushan, they are doing a little bit of a turn, a tail wag as you go into another left-hander followed by an immediate right-hander, which you have to make sure that you don't hit the curbs. And Ashan showing you exactly what you shouldn't do as you come into the short straight, as you find the timing beam there, and all 3 drivers coming down to a very slow right left-hander, which is now a steep uphill into another left-hander as Kushan overtakes Ashan. And you see Kushan also having his back out. There you have it. That's a lap of Circuit de Catalunya. As we ride on board with Kevin Pereira, and Kevin still holding forth, and you see Brian has managed to pip Akil Rizni by a smidgen of a timing, as Brian now goes all 4 wheels off the circuit, maybe trying to find that very fine line. Akil Rizni there, who's at the moment 3,000th of a second of Brian Pereira. So that's how close this whole racing is going to be. Akil in the beautiful green Porsche. Shami Alvis has got the 3rd fastest time, 1:45.272, followed by Kevin Pereira, who's 1:45.458. Kushan Pires has got the 5th fastest time of 1:45.636, while Adam Junaid is 1:45.694. Ashan Silva has clocked a time of 1:45.774. Rushdie Irshan 1:45.854, while Kurt has clocked a time of. Okay, Kurt has still not clocked a time. Riaz has clocked a time of 2 minutes 10. I'm sure that was just a banker lap. Seshan has clocked a time of 2 minutes 10, 8:19. Riaz has clocked a time of 1:46.339. I think he's gone to the pits for splash and dash. While we have Viren driving a very different car. Let me tell you what the car is. He's driving an Aston Martin. And as we see Riaz Hafrat, he has chosen to drive a Hyundai Genesis car, one of the few people who opted to run an Asian car, and all credit to him. He must be having quite a bit of comfort in that particular car. As we ride on board with Irushdi, beautiful green car, slightly off, I'm sorry to say it, as the commentators jinxed him. He's gone off. I suppose he'll come back as we ride now with Ashan. Kushan is also on track, as you will see. Kushan's details now being viewed. We have Sabri Salam, who is managing the live feed. They've tried very hard to increase the information flow that you get. And there you have it, Kushan Piris, a real world racer and now a sim driver who takes part in Gran Turismo as well as Dirt. So that's it from there. If I may go to show you what a pit stop looks like. And we have Thiago Pereira in a very a gold looking Porsche. Thiago also a go-karter at heart, as well as a sim driver now. As we ride on board with Thiago into the first corner, he's on an outlap. And now we will ride on board with Akil Rizni, still having the second fastest time for the day, although it shows that he's on top here. It means that Brian Pereira has gone into the pits and is at the moment in the pits, maybe getting a fuel stop. Total of 14 drivers taking part in the event today. And that's Mevan Pereira that you see on track. Mevan has opted for a beautiful blue, as you will see. All the sponsors' logos, PETRONAS SYNTIUM. You'll see the PETRONAS SYNTIUM logo on the bonnet of the car, while the SLT MOBITEL logo, the House of Glass logo, the Lab 57 logo, and the AAAR logo stays on the car in all odd places. As we ride on board with Mevan Pereira, we still have his brother, the elder brother Brian, sitting in Australia, who's clocked a time of 1:44.664. So that there you have it. Shami Alvis has clocked 1:44.725, while Thiago Pereira has clocked 1:44.863. So the gaps pretty close in the top six drivers. It's going to be a very interesting race. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, on board with Thiago, you see the RS means racing soft tires which are being used. The fuel, as you will see, like in any car, shows the amount of fuel that he has left on board. The tire wear that you will see, there are 4 lines next to the RS, shows the amount of tires, and the red part shows how much of his tires he has used and how much he has left over. And the red line that you will see is when he does press the throttle to get round the corner or at any point of time. And the blue is when he gets on the brake on the side. So that's a little bit about the telemetry of the car as we ride on board with Thiago. We'll now ride on board with Viren in the Aston Martin. Viren, another brilliant driver, ran hill climbs, ran circuit meets, a little bit of gravel, and there you have Viren, who's at the moment 2/10 of the pace of Brian Pereira. And you've got Thiago, who's 1.9 tenths of Brian, and we go in for qualifying in the next 7 minutes. And we will take a small break for a couple of seconds, and we'll come back to you with a commercial from our sponsors.
nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The qualifying has begun. We've got 10 minutes at the Circuit de Catalunya with 16 corners. As we wait for the drivers to come out, everybody is in the pits waiting to fill their cars with adequate fuel. As we see all the cars now coming out, we've got everybody except Shami Alvis, who's not yet left the pits. We've got Mevan, who's at the moment second out. Shami has still not left the pits. Rushdie Irshan is out. Kushan Piris is out. Adam is on track. Young Adam Junaid, who's a mere 12 years of age, along with Seshan, who's also 12 years or 11 years, I'm told. So we've got a host of youngsters here. We've got Tiago, who's 16. And we've got all 14 drivers on track now. It'll be wonderful to see who is who in the pecking order today as they go out for the first round of the Race at Home Championship, presented to you by PETRONAS SYNTIUM and powered by SLT MOBITEL. As you see, Kurt Martinstein in the very beautiful Volkswagen Beetle. He's got the PETRONAS SYNTIUM logo on the bonnet of the car, and you've got the SLT MOBITEL logo on the side of the car, while all the other logos are also on these cars. As you see, Akhil Rizni being chased by Ashan Silva, and Ashan in the beautiful Lap 57 sponsored car, which is also a Porsche 911. And that's Ashan following Akhil Rizni as we wait for the drivers to clock in their lap times. The first person to pass the line will be Tiago in the gold color Porsche 911. We will have a representative time from Tiago very soon, which will be the benchmark for the first of the runners to have crossed the start-finish line as he goes through the first of the chicanes. First chicane to the left, next chicane to the right, and approaches the final corner. Very long right-hander as he goes past the start-finish line, and that's Tiago clocking a time of 1 minute 45.30 4, while Akhil Rizni clocks a time of 1:44.798, while Brian Pereira clocks a time, who's at the fastest at the moment, of 1:44.481. That seems to be the fastest time achieved during the whole day today. As we wait for the other cars to come across, we will ride on board with Viren Boteju in the monster of an Aston Martin. Viren Boteju has clocked a time of 1:45.304, being his quickest. All these drivers have only done one lap. The first was an out lap, and Viren has managed to secure the 7th quickest time so far. We ride along with Viren for a little while, and as you will see, the drivers' details coming at the bottom of your screen. This Race at Home Championship is presented to you by PETRONAS SYNTIUM and powered by SLT MOBITEL. Drivers have now all clocked a time, and we see the first set of drivers, who are Brian Pereira, Akhil Rizni, Kevin Pereira, who clocked in the top 3 timings, while we are and we see Adam, Seshan, and Riaz, who are just doing some banker laps out there. These are not real laps that they want to get for their timing. They're just out there, I'm sure, to burn a little bit of fuel and reduce the weight of the car. These are not the real timings, ladies and gentlemen. Within the next 2 minutes, in the finals, there will be a spurt where everybody will come into the pits. As you see now, Akhil Risni is already in, Ashan Silva is already in, and likewise there will be a couple of drivers who will come in for a fresh set of rubber and then go out there with a lower tank of fuel and just get out there to have that last spurt to the checkered flag. Once again, we thank our sponsors: House of Glass, Lab 57, Triple AR, SLT Mobitel, and none other than PETRONAS SYNTIUM. We will wait. We will ride on board with Mevan Pereira as he comes into the pits for his tire change. Be interesting to see what Mevan does. Give you a little bit of an insight as to what a pit stop in this is like. As I told you, no fuel going in, only the tires in, out, and there goes Mevan back on track. We'll ride back with Mevan's brother Brian, who's sitting all the way in Australia. Brian has chosen to run a BMW Z4, I think, and that's a change from what he used to drive previously, which used to be the Porsche. The car, you can't miss it. The car is nice and pink. Or am I seeing it in a different way? Brian, Akhil, Kevin, Mevan, Shami, Irshan, Tiago, Viren, Ashan, Seshan, Adam, and Kurt. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All the drivers. I'm sorry, I went a bit too fast from one driver to the other. And there you have it. We've had a small technical issue. I'm made to understand that one of the drivers has one of the drivers, Kushan Pires, has had a small technical issue, but we will resolve it. These things do happen, and so we ride on board with Akhil Risni again. We ride on board with Akhil Risni again. As Akhil seems to have clocked a pretty decent time of 1:44.798, while Brian has achieved a lap time of 1:44.481. This is the first round of the Race at Home Championship, brought to you by SLT Mobitel and presented to you by PETRONAS SYNTIUM. Akhil Risni has just clocked the quickest time of 1:44.369, which is faster than Brian Pereira, which is an amazing feat. It's an amazing feat. As Akhil is now on pole, and let's see where Brian is. Brian is Brian achieved in this last lap. I'm sorry, my mistake. Brian is not in the last corner. He's in turn 4. Now coming into turn 5, 6. We're right on board with Brian because he's the guy who's going to upset the skittles, as one would call it. And Brian, one of the runners who's opted to run a totally different car, while all the other drivers are in different formats of cars. They're all having to scuttle to the start finish line to log their timings for the last time, because this is the time where the car would be the lightest and the tires would be at its freshest. So a lot of gamesmanship taking place here, a lot of strategies in place. Some of these drivers having managers who tell them how they should be managing their runs. It's become a very professional series now, and as you may know that e-sport is also now an Olympic sport. Most of the sponsors now joining the four, as Brian Pereira clocks 1:44.115. That is a phenomenal time achieved by Brian Pereira, tipping Akil Rizni's timing again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, you see Akil has come second, Kevin Pereira third, and Tiago Pereira has come fourth, Mevan Pereira fifth. And that
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
We're ready to start the race now with Brian Pereira on pole, Akhil Risni on grid 2, Kevin Pereira in grid 3, and Thiago Pereira grid 4, Mevan Pereira grid 5, Kurt Martinstein grid 6, Shami Alvis grid 7, and Rushdie Irshan grid 8. I can't give you the grid below that, but trust me, it's going to be a phenomenal start as we race down to the first corner. Let's ride on board with Kevin Pereira in the middle of the pack as all the drivers sort themselves out to make sure that they brake at the right points. And there's a bit of argy-bargy going along. I can see cars which were in the front row have now gone all the way down to the back, but that's okay. It's a long race of 14 laps. There's been a bit of elbows being extended here. A couple of drivers have gone from the top to the bottom and a couple of them from the bottom to the top, but that's motorsport for you. We ride on board with Kevin and his brother Brian. In the first corner there was a little bit of contact, and we've got Viren Boteju who's come third. That's a brilliant start from him. That was wonderful to see Viren coming all the way from the back, and Brian and Akhil trying to run away with this as we see Mevan, Kevin and Thiago in the middle of the pack, all running similar branded cars, similar colored cars, and all trying to hunt down the mighty Aston Martin of Viren Boteju. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to almost the end of the first lap. As you see, Viren Boteju still holding the third place, and Mevan Pereira in fourth, Kevin Pereira in fifth, Thiago in sixth, and Kurt Martinstein in seventh, and Ashan Silva in eighth. All these cars running pretty close to each other as Mevan dives down the inside of Akhil Rizni and takes third place as Akhil drops down a place, and Viren actually now holding up the train of cars of Porsches which are behind him. Everybody knocking on his door saying, hey, come on guys, get a move on, as Viren goes into turn 5, the long right-hander, and Mevan and Kevin all now coming very close to each other. 2, 3, 4, 5 all in close proximity to each other. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, lap 2 of 14 as Viren holds station in second place while Mevan, Akhil and Kevin chase Viren the flag. Meanwhile, up in front, Brian Pereira having a comfortable 2.3 second lead. He's going to walk away with this one if there is no competition coming along from Viren, as Viren is 2.6 seconds away from a drift from Brian, and something seems to have happened. Kevin has dropped considerably now, and he's about 1.8 to 1.9 seconds away from Viren. Akhil Rizni has dropped as well, and everybody now settling into a comfortable zone as we see Kurt now coming up right on Akhil Rizni's tail. Kurt might outbreak Akhil into that first corner. Kurt also running the beautiful Volkswagen Beetle. As Silva comes along, I think Ashan has a penalty. He may have gone either off track or may have bumped somebody. The game automatically gives penalties for people who've done some kind of excursion off track, either four wheels off track or a tap with some other car. So there you have it, Akhil Rizni being followed by Kurt, being followed by Ashan, who suffers a 1 second penalty, and behind him is Shami Alvis, Shami as well. All these cars at the back of the pack now, and there's one car which goes quite off the track. I'm not too sure who that was, as Riyad Hafrat, Kushan Piris, Thiago Pereira in 10th place, and being chased by Adam Junaid. Everybody now falling into a certain pattern. There's not much gap between these cars as the front runners are pulling away as we ride with Adam and the cars at the back. Adam has got ahead of Rushdie Irshan and Seshan as there's quite a bit of gamesmanship in these cars with these drivers. They're all trying different strategies, some running a little longer than the others as we ride on board now with Thiago. Thiago getting the better of Kushan Peris, I think, and Kushan also trying to make sure that he gets his place back. And Thiago is now chasing the fast-moving Riaz Hafrat as Kushan gets his place back. But I think there was some kind of penalty there, as Kushan has incurred a 2-second penalty. There's a lot of argy-bargy going along on this long circuit. People are extending their elbows, but it'll be interesting to see who's who at the end of the 14 laps. You can see the cars as they ride along. The tire wear is now coming into play. Some of these are red lines on top of the 4 little strips, means the amount of tire wear that they have incurred in this whole process. I can't tell you which car is quicker than the other because they all seem to be having an equal pace at the bottom and at the middle and the bottom, but the top certainly has pulled away. As we ride, we'll go up the grade again to Ashan and Akhil Rizni, Kevin Pereira, who's now right on the tail of Viren. That'll be interesting. Let's stay with these two guys. To see what exactly is going to happen. And let's see if Kevin is going to pull a number on these guys as they all go over the curbs. It'll be very, very nice. And that I think there must be a penalty for Akhil Rizvi because I felt he put 4 wheels off the circuit. Yes, he has. And there you go, a penalty which Akhil has got for taking 4 wheels, or putting 4 wheels of his car off the track. Viren holding a very tight line into that corner, making sure that Kevin doesn't come down the inside and outbreaks him. Viren has a lot of experience in this kind of dogfighting, as Kevin is going to hound him all the way, and there was a small love tap there by Kevin. No harm there, no quarter given, no quarter asked, and I think Brian has extended his lead to 4.9 seconds now as we ride on board with Kevin. Let's go down the grid a little bit and see what Kurt Martinstein can do to Akhil Rizvi. The gap still quite far as we go down the grid again. Kushan Peri still is incurring a 1.7 second penalty there, and Ashan also having a 1 second penalty down on him. I'm not too sure if I saw it right, but Ashan did run a little too wide there. And Shami Alves, Kushan Pires and Thiago Pereira at the back. Kushan still serving a 1.1 second penalty. These drivers now just holding station, wondering to see who's going to pit where. And that's Thiago in these gold color Porsche, backstepping out quite a bit as we ride with Rushdie Irshan. And these 3 cars all very closely fighting amongst each other. Riaz in the Hyundai chasing down as we find Rushdie coming down, trying to take Thiago on the outside. I think he got Rushdie Irshan got the better of Thiago there, and Riaz now in 11th place, while Mevan Pereira is down to 12. I wonder what happened to Mevan Pereira, because he was quite quick in the earlier stints, And Mevan now being chased by Seshan, and Adam, who also was in the middle order, has now dropped all the way down to the back. There's been quite a bit of middle order bumping around, and I'm not too sure what exactly happened. The stewards will have a look at all if there are any incidents as Seshan fights with Mevan for 12th place. Be interesting to see what exactly has happened. And right at the top, Brian Pereira still holds fourth with Viren Voteju and Kevin Pereira in third place. And that's we ride on board with Rushdie Irshan again. These cars all skating around. They're coming close to their pit stop times, and you will see most of these cars between lap 6, 7 and 8, they will have to come in to change their tires. No fuel, a little bit of fuel might be necessary, but overall, as you see, Thiago has already come. He's gone in for the undercut and come in for his pit stop. He's going to take the undercut and see what happens there. As we ride on board with the three cars here of Shami Alvis, Kushan Pires and Ashan Silva. There's three cars as in the same frame. It'll be interesting to see what exactly they're going to do. And the game, incidentally, has increased its the difficulty by having, if you are following another car. Whoa, that was a bad one there by, who was that driver? I can't really figure who it was. I think it was Rushdie Irshan, who had quite a moment there. Yes, it was Rushdie Irshan who had quite a moment. He went completely off track and lost a lot of time. But he's now at the back, at the bottom of the three cars. He was leading the three cars. Now he's at the bottom of the three cars. As we have Ashan Silva, Kurt, Ashan, and Kushan now in close fight with each other. Four cars here. Ashan, Kushan, Shami, and Irshan. All four drivers now within a stone's throw of each other. It will be interesting to see who's going to blink first for this in the next lap, to see who's going to dive in for a pit stop as they come in to that window where everybody is going to come in. As we see another car cutting the corner. Yes, I'm sure he will get a penalty for that as well. As Kevin Pereira, Kurt Martinstein, Shami Alvis, Brian Pereira, all of them have come in for their tire stop now. And Viren, incidentally, has held on for another lap. Wow, that's interesting, because Kushan, Viren and Rushdie have managed to pull a 9 laps out of the first set of tires. At the end of this lap, they will be really skating around, but all credit to these three drivers for having pulled an extra lap, whereas everybody else has managed to jump up and perform their tire stops in either 6th or 7th lap. So it's interesting to see what exactly the strategy is going to be. For some it's worked, for some it hasn't. And Viren leads the pack. So Viren leads the pack, followed by Kushan and Rushdie Irshan. Now the interesting thing would be that these three guys are going to come into a pit stop very soon. Have they really made that advantage that they should have by staying out for 2 extra laps, or would the others have an advantage by them coming in a little earlier? So let's see. We will ride on board with the top now, who is Riaz, who still hasn't done a pit stop, and he's running an absolutely long first stint of 9 laps. And he's still clocking reasonably decent times of 148, which is not too shabby. as Riaz leads the race from Brian by 15 seconds. So Riaz Hafrat, in a totally different strategy, running the Beamer coding branding on his car, having a long first stint, while Brian Pereira trails him by 14, or we can see Brian reeling him in a couple of tenths per corner. So the staying along for the ninth lap really didn't work for him, because you can see those who did the undercut, like Thiago, who was 10th and 11th, has now shot up all the way up to 7th. So the undercut works for some and it doesn't work for some, but let's see whether it does, as Riaz is losing a chunk of time by hanging around on the track, because Brian had a 15 second gap and has brought it down to just under 12 seconds now, with a couple of corners. So Riaz has lost about 4 seconds in that, by staying out to the other drivers. So it will be interesting to see where exactly these guys are as we ride on board with Shami Alves. Shami is now third, and behind Shami you find again Ashan, who's fourth. Brilliant drive on Ashan's part as Kurt gives him a small tap, but there's no real harm there. It'll be interesting to see what they do now, as Ashan is now being hounded by Kurt. That Volkswagen has a lot of torque. It's a car with phenomenal acceleration, and around this track on the long straight, it will be interesting to see whether Kurt does have the advantage of the power as well as the slipstream. I'm not too sure whether Kurt can catch him quickly enough. Yes, he is. He is bringing the gap down, but not enough, because the mightily experienced Ashan brakes at phenomenally late, while Kurt has to bear and wait for the next lap, as we ride now with the next two cars, which is Thiago and Viren. Viren, who was second, has now dropped to 8th place. Now, what on earth happened there? That is a strange thing where we do not know exactly what happened. Thiago trying his level best to keep Viren behind him, as the Porsche is one of the broadest cars on the track today, and he's trying desperately, knowing every little trick in the book, to keep Viren behind him for another 4 laps, and make sure his tires are not getting worn out, while Viren, his effort is to make sure that he passes Thiago by trying whatever he knows. This is two drivers who have a lot of respect for each other, as Thiago allows Viren to go down on the inside, and the experience of Viren gets the better of Thiago on that corner. There you have it, motorsport in an absolutely clean manner. No quarter given, no quarter asked, yet they fight tooth and nail to ensure that they have all the fun that they have on this circuit in Barcelona. And I come back to the sponsors. We thank our sponsors, PETRONAS SYNTIUM, who brought us this championship, along with MOBITEL, who has given us all the data, SLT MOBITEL, who has given us all the data, Lab 57, as well as House of Glass, and AAAR, who've come in as our media partner. We'll change your view a little bit and allow you to see, give you a glimpse of how it looks from inside the car. That's what it looks like when they're driving. So that's Adam Junaid, who's running at the back. Adam So there you have Adam Junaid. Unfortunately, I think Adam has had some kind of an incident on track and has gone quite far down. But we ride with Sashan, who's also at the back, and Akil Rizni, who's 11th, who's chasing Mevan Pereira, Kushan Piris, who's now quite close to Thiago, and Viren, who's in 8th place, as Kushan goes down the inside of Thiago. That's a very clean pass on Thiago there. Kushan having loads of experience in the real world, as we ride on board now with Viren Boteju. Viren, also an absolutely real world racing driver who has loads of experience in Formula McLarens, as well as the Hondas, as well in the SLS Honda class. He's got loads of experience, and that's what is being translated onto a circuit in Catalonia today in this race at home championship, presented to you by PETRONAS SYNTIUM, powered by SLT MOBITEL. We're at the X station today, MOBITEL's signature store, which has all the online gizmos. Anyone walking about in down Duplication Road can come and have a look at all the equipment they have here. It's a beautiful place, and we have Shahan here who helps us with all the data which comes along, which is required to run this kind of event. Now we ride on board with Rushdie Irshan, who's on Ashan Silva's tail as he goes along into the penultimate corner, into the long stretch. Rushdie hassling Ashan, Ashan keeping the car all the way on the right side to make sure that he can't go around, and a little bit of tapping there, ouch, but no real incident there, as Ashan fights to live another day. One more lap to go. We ride on board with these two. An amazing feat by Riaz Hafrat. We have to say that Riaz has gambled to hold on and run such a long stint in the first bit of the race, has given him that amazing lead of 5 seconds to Brand to Shami Alves. As we ride on board, Shami seems to be catching Riaz, but I mean, there's only a lap and a half more on this long circuit of 4.6 kilometers. It will be interesting to see whether Riaz's tires are really shot. I think he has not done a tire change. I think he's only gone for a bit of fuel, or he has not done any fuel. He's done the whole. If I'm not mistaken, Riaz has done the entire race without a fuel stop. He's gone the entire distance without a fuel stop or a tire change. Unfortunately, Shami is catching him in leaps and bounds. There's another lap to go. We'll wait on board with Riaz to see whether Shami can make a big impact on him. But that is outstanding. I'm sure Riaz may have started off on a set of medium tires and not on a set of soft compounds, because the soft compound tires would not have allowed him to run this long in the race. As Shami has now reduced the gap to 1.6 seconds, 1.5, 1.2, Shami catching him very, very quickly, and we'll ride on board with Shami to see what Shami sees. There you have it, Shami Alves getting close to Riaz. A gamble that paid off for Riaz, because Riaz didn't qualify that high up in the order, and Riaz has gone off. That is the gamble that you do take if you run so long and your tires do degrade very, very fast. I hope Riaz can hold on, as Rushdie Irshan is catching him as well. They've got about another 6 corners more to go. Those corners are the tight ones because the midsection of this track is very demanding. So we go into the hard-braking left-hander, into a second left-hander, and we'll now ride on board with Brian Pereira, who's coming into the first of the chicanes, and he will be taking the checkered flag. Ladies and gentlemen, our winner of race 1, Brian Pereira, leads Shami Alvis by 13 seconds. And there you have it, Brian Pereira, 13, 13 seconds. And then we have Shami Alvis coming across the start finish line now, having a lead of 2.8 seconds from Rushdie Irshan, who's managed to take and Riaz unfortunately on the line has been taken by Rushdie Irshan and Viren Boteju. Riaz came 5th without a single pit stop. Ashan has come 6th, Thiago 7th, and Akil Rizni 8th. Riaz says he started in 11th place and he's ended his race in 5th place. And Riaz has run out of fuel. It's unfortunate. Kushan has come 10th, Kurt Martinstein 11th, Seshan 12th, and Adam 13th. We're going to have a 15-minute break now, and we'll see you back after 15 minutes.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think. My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula One driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula One driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula One driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think. My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be number one priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think. My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think.
What?
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
I'm Stephanie Travers, and this is my colleague Andy Liao. We are the PETRONAS Trackside Fluid Engineers. Today, we'd like to give you an insight into what goes on in the PETRONAS Trackside Lab.
A lot of people don't know that our weekend starts way before Friday running. We actually come in on a Tuesday and make sure that our fluids are in good quality to put into the cars. And when the cars start running on the Friday onwards to the Sunday, we make sure that our fluids are checked before and after each session, and we understand the degradation in the car as we go through the weekend.
This is a gas chromatograph, also known as a GC, and we use it to analyze our premix fuel throughout a race weekend. We take approximately a 2 milliliter sample and put it within a vial, just like the one I'm holding, and that goes straight into the machine once we get back into the lab. The machine takes around 30 minutes to run each sample, and it's giving us a fingerprint of the fuel. Every fuel that we have trackside has been pre-approved by the FIA, and we need to ensure that we are matching that golden approved sample at all times.
What we have here are two different samples of oil. On this hand, we see that a fresh Syntium engine oil that is yellowish, slightly translucent fluid. So this goes in the car, and after running through a very vigorous session, we end up with an oil sample that's much darker in color. So what's happened here is actually the detergents in the oil and other additives working hard to make sure the engine is clean and can maintain peak performance. So running this used oil through our spectrometer helps us detect any degradation and the health of the oil.
We provide fluid technology analysis to not only the Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think. My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula 1 driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think. My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula One driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT MOBITEL has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT MOBITEL, the connection.
My advice for kids that that want to be a Formula One driver, I think my advice is work hard at school. That always has to be #1 priority. You need to be intelligent, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be almost your own engineer to be able to be a racing driver, and then on top of that you need to be able to drive. So schoolwork is the first and most important aspect of it, I think.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty,